Chapter 84. Where do you think you're going? The female assassin's heart turned cold. Her target this time was Wang Chong. Regardless of whether it was to kill him or to have him forge a sword for her, she couldn't allow him to escape. Enduring the pain in her body, the female assassin hurriedly chased after Wang Chong. Outside the window, the moonlight shone brightly. She could see a figure as agile as a serpent dashing toward the Wang family residence's warehouse. The female assassin's face turned cold. Without any hesitation, she immediately chased after Wang Chong. But just as she was several zhang away from the female assassin, a black gleam flashed, and a massive steel arrow carrying a powerful might flew toward the female assassin's face at the speed of lightning. Boom! In an instant, the female assassin was only able to raise her broken sword before her body to block the attack. Then she was struck by the thick metal arrow and was sent flying. Tuoba Gyuan, masters, hurry up and stop her. Don't let her escape. As Wang Chong dashed along the grass, he bellowed loudly. The first half of his sentence was in Mandarin, but the second half was in Sanskrit. Female benefactor, stay behind. Arloja and Eblonidon roared furiously. Black smoke billowed from their bodies, and as though two arrows leaving the bow, they charged forward. Ping ping. In a short period of time, the three powerful shockwaves collided with one another. The shockwaves from the explosion even affected Wang Chong, who was a dozen zhang away. When Wang Chong turned around, he saw Arloja and Eblonidon's robes puffing up. Their bodies wavered, and they retreated several steps. On the other hand, the female assassin also made use of this opportunity to charge out. In midair, she deflected Ba Guiyuan's thick metal arrow with an arrow before her figure blurred. Executing the specter steps once more, her figure morphed into a blurry shadow and darted into the shadows at the corner of the wall. This matter isn't over yet. That hateful voice sounded from the darkness, and it sounded as though her teeth were about to shatter. In the blink of an eye, the Eastern Islands' female assassin disappeared from sight. That fellow's strength is incredible. Upon seeing this sight, Wang Chong was astonished. He had witnessed Arloja and Eblonidon's strength before. For this female assassin to be able to fight against the two of them at the same time, her strength was truly astonishing. Young master, who is this woman? She's so strong, even two of my arrows couldn't hurt her. Tuoba Guiyuan rushed over with an arrow on his back. The most basic requirement for an archer was to have a keen eye, and Tuoba Guiyuan was an expert in this field. However, after the other party executed the specter steps, Tuoba Guiyuan was unable to identify her. Is it that merchant from the western regions, Mozaid? This guy is so cunning. Other than those masked men in black, he actually arranged for another group of assassins. Shen Hai and Meng Long also rushed over from the back with their swords in their hands. It's not Mozaid. Wang Chong shook his head. The group of people immediately looked over in surprise. This person is a Japanese assassin. No matter how strong Mozaid is, it's impossible for him to hire a Japanese assassin to deal with me. And she doesn't recognize the Wuxia steel sword in my hand. Wang Chong said as he lifted the Wuxia steel sword in his hand to take a look. There were simply too many flaws on the Japanese female assassin. Initially, Wang Chong thought that she was hired by Mozaid. However, what Mozaid wanted was his Wuxia steel sword, and this person wanted his life. If it weren't for the fact that she happened to discover the 7-foot-long, slender and thick-backed sword on the table, and the fact that the Japanese were especially proficient in swordsmanship, she would have killed him long ago. Then who sent her? Shen Hai and Meng Long frowned. Wang Chong shook his head silently. Even though he didn't know who sent the assassin, the only one who would be able to send such an assassin recently was either Su Bai or Yao Feng. Su Bai had already been locked up in the Court of Judicial Review, and no matter how capable he was, it was impossible for him to hire a female assassin. Then what was left was, at this point, a dark shadow flashed across Wang Chong's forehead. Let's talk about this matter in the future. Reinforce our defenses for the next few days. That person might come again. Shen Hai, Meng Long, and Tuoba Guiyuan nodded their heads in fear. If not for Wang Chong's wits and having Daoba Guiyuan and the two Cindy monks deliver the weapons to Shanhai and Meng Long, no one would have known that Wang Chong was in danger. That female assassin probably wouldn't have known that there wasn't a weapon rack in the corner of the Wang clan's warehouse. It was because Shanhai and Meng Long heard this, as well as the fact that Wang Chong had been in his room the entire time, not opening the door, that they realized that something was amiss. Thus, they gathered Daoba Guiyuan, Ablonidin, and Arloja to rush over. Master, I'll be troubling you for the next 2 days. Wang Chong turned around and spoke to the two Cindy monks in Sanskrit. Don't worry, Gongzi. We'll stay close to you for the next few days to ensure your safety. Recalling the previous situation, the two of them felt a lingering fear. The current Wang Chong was of utmost importance to them. No matter what, they couldn't allow anything to happen to him. After receiving the assurance of the two Cindy monks, Wang Chong heaved a sigh of relief. With Ablonidin, Arloja, and Daoba Guiyuan around, he didn't have to worry about the female assassin for the time being. Perhaps, it's about time for me to get some help. A glint flashed across Wang Chong's eyes and a thought flashed across his mind. This incident also served as a reminder to Wang Chong. Time and space had changed, and so had his identity and strength. If it was in the past, as the Grand Marshal of the Central Plains, Wang Chong wouldn't have paid any heed to such an assassin. However, everything was different now. Wang Chong had to remind himself repeatedly that he was no longer the Grand Marshal of the Central Plains. He was just a mere scion of an Origin Energy Tier 5 clan. Before he succeeded in cultivating those cultivation techniques, he wouldn't be able to execute a single one of them. Ablonidin, Arloja, and the others couldn't possibly guard him all the time, and Daoba Guiyuan couldn't possibly stay by his side. Under the circumstances where he wasn't strong enough, in order to prevent such a thing from happening again, Wang Chong had to find some formidable bodyguards and subordinates to protect him. Even though this wasn't an easy task, Wang Chong was still able to find a few of them. There's no need to rush this matter. I'll think about it after Grandfather's birthday. Wang Chong thought. Grandfather's birthday was just a few days away. With Ablonidin and Arloja around, it shouldn't be a problem for him to endure for a few days. Furthermore, if that female assassin still remembered what he told her about the Spectre Steps, she probably wouldn't have the time to harass him for the time being. Masters, I'll have to trouble you to stay beside me for the next few days. Wang Chong turned to look at Shanhai and Meng Long. Also, Shanhai and Meng Long, call little sister over tomorrow. He also told his cousin to get a few experts from his uncle to come over and guard his mother's residence. I'm afraid that there might be others who would lay their hands on mother. Also, inform the Imperial Army to increase the patrols in the vicinity. Right? It would be best to inform uncle and have him deal with this matter personally. It didn't matter how many guards there were. It was safest for the Imperial Army to patrol the area frequently. The Imperial Army of the Royal Court was filled with experts of true martial realm and above. With these people patrolling the area frequently, even the female assassin would have to consider whether it was worth it to do so. Yes, I'll get it done now. Shanhai and Meng Long replied before leaving. After making all these arrangements, Wang Chong heaved a sigh of relief. After making all these arrangements, the Wang clan was truly impregnable. At the very least, he wouldn't have to worry about an attack of this level in the future. After making arrangements for Ablonidin and Arloja's residence, Wang Chong headed back to his own residence. The Wang clan finally quietened down after a huge commotion in the middle of the night. Ping! Wang Chong pushed open the door, and just as he stepped over the threshold, the world suddenly shook. An intense bout of dizziness struck his head. Before Wang Chong could react, he felt the world around him changing. In an instant, it felt as though countless things were pressing down on him. That kind of heavy pressure was almost suffocating. Warning! Warning! The first world constraint has arrived. Before Wang Chong could even react, the world before him had already begun to churn. An endless torrent of energy surged toward him with the might of a thunderbolt. In the midst of this torrent of energy, Wang Chong seemed as insignificant as an ant. Wang Chong's right knee caved in, and he fell to the ground. At the same time, Wang Chong could vaguely hear a rumbling in his body. A bizarre but resilient energy burst forth from his body, forming a faint yellow barrier that shielded Wang Chong's body. Boom! The surging torrent of energy surged past Wang Chong's body like a tidal wave. The faint yellow barrier around Wang Chong's body shattered with a pop, taking away all of Wang Chong's stamina. Whew! Wang Chong's face was pale, and he sat on the ground. His entire body was drenched in sweat. Gongzi, what's wrong? A Sanskrit voice came from next door. It was Ablonidin. I'm fine. Wang Chong replied weakly. Everything before him returned to normal. The heavy pressure and the feeling of the world crashing down on him only lasted for an instant before disappearing. The room was dark and silent. The world shackles had passed. Masters, did you two see anything just now? Or did you discover anything? Wang Chong panted for breath and said after a moment of silence. No, I only heard that you fell. It was Ablonidin's voice, and there was a hint of doubt in his voice. For some reason, Wang Chong's voice had become exceptionally weak. However, recalling how Wang Chong had just survived the assault of a female assassin, he felt relieved and didn't think too much about it. Oblivious to Ablonidin and Arloja, in the other room, Wang Chong was taken aback upon hearing their reply. All of a sudden, he seemed to have come to a realization. So, I'm the only one who could see such a huge commotion? Wang Chong fell into deep thought. Regardless of whether it was the powerful torrent of energy or the faint yellow barrier around him, other than him, Ablonidin, Arloja, and the others were unaware of such a huge commotion. Wang Chong suddenly realized that the power of the world was directed at him. The world constraint had already surpassed the capabilities of an ordinary cultivator. Even Ablonidin and Arloja weren't able to sense it. Chapter 85. This was the first time Wang Chong had experienced the world-binding force, or rather, the repulsive force. It felt as though he was not tolerated by the entire world. In front of that majestic power, Wang Chong could deeply feel how insignificant he was, and his heart palpitated. In reality, it was not just him. Wang Chong believed that any warrior would be as insignificant as an ant in front of this torrent of heaven and earth. On the collapsed bed, Wang Chong sat on the ground, panting heavily, sweat pouring down his forehead like rain. So this is the price of reincarnating, to become the enemy of the entire world. If not for the Stone of Destiny, I would have been crushed into powder long ago. Wang Chong closed his eyes, thinking silently, and a bitter smile appeared on his face. At this moment, Wang Chong suddenly understood what kind of predicament reincarnating would face in this universe. Right now, the Stone of Destiny was his only hope. The torrent of heaven and earth was endless, as though a flood was crashing down on him. However, the faint light emitted by the Stone of Destiny was like a shelter in the midst of a storm, helping him escape this crisis. The 20 Destiny energy should have been used up by now. This is only the first wave. This thought flashed through Wang Chong's mind, and the next moment, Wang Chong saw the Stone of Destiny in his mind. Warning! Destiny energy remaining, 5 points. Duration of the next world binding force, 3 months. Destiny energy required, 30 points. Looking at this string of information, Wang Chong laughed bitterly in his heart. It was exactly as he had expected. However, the next time, the amount of destiny energy required to resist the world-binding force was not 25 points, but 30 points. After sitting on the ground for a while, as his stamina recovered, a strange feeling slowly spread throughout his body. A power that he had never felt before was suddenly released from his hair follicles, skin, and muscles all over his body. Wang Chong felt that while his stamina was recovering, his strength was also increasing. Not only that, this energy seemed to have a very strong penetrative ability. It began to penetrate through his skin and muscles, seeping into his bones and marrow, and began to automatically strengthen Wang Chong's bones, meridians, and even muscles. Wang Chong's heart skipped a beat as he suddenly came to a realization. Wasn't this what the Stone of Fate had mentioned before? Every time he resisted the world restriction, his body would be strengthened? Thinking of this, Wang Chong was overjoyed. He jumped up from the ground and quickly executed the astral steps, practicing the heavy punch method. Bang bang bang. Strong winds blew in all directions in the room, and waves of air burst out like a tidal wave. As expected, when Wang Chong practiced the heavy punch, the speed at which the dissipating energy permeated his body increased tremendously. Under the transformation of this energy, Wang Chong could feel the bones in his body absorbing nutrients from his blood, rapidly becoming denser. As expected, could this energy be the dissipating energy of the world? Wang Chong was delighted. Recalling the surging energy of the world, could it be that when the faint yellow barrier formed by the energy of destiny broke apart, it captured some of the dissipating energy of the world and sent it back to him? Now that I think about it, the world restriction isn't that bad after all. Wang Chong chuckled. Becoming one with his mind, he hastened the cultivation of the heavy punch. Time slowly passed, and it was hard to tell how many days had passed. Gotcha! Wang Chong suddenly heard the crisp sound of his bones exploding. Somehow, he seemed to have broken through a bottleneck, and Wang Chong felt his strength rising by a large margin in an instant. Panther Bone to Dan. Wang Chong was overjoyed. He felt refreshed. Not only had he recovered to his peak, he had also recovered from the internal injuries he suffered from the Eastern Islands' female assassin's attack. Furthermore, his strength had also risen by a notch. With the success of Panther Bone to Dan, it was only a matter of time before he reached Origin Energy Tier 6. Wang Chong was overjoyed, and he only fell into a deep sleep when it was nearing dawn. "Mother, I'm back." The next day, just as he was having his meal, the sound of bouncing could be heard. The door was pushed open, and his little sister barged in. Her hair was tied into a ponytail, and she was munching on a fragrant chicken drumstick. It was hard to tell if she had brought it from her cousin's place. "Brother, I heard that some baddies came to our house last night." Were they? Let me give them a good beating." As the Wang family's little sister spoke, she looked around furiously. Then she raised her fair and tender fists, as though flaunting her prowess. "You spend all day at cousin's place, and you still have the time to come back? By the time you return, they would have already left." Wang Chong glanced at his little sister and said impatiently. After not seeing her for a few days, his little sister seemed to have changed completely. She had a rattledrum by her waist, a pair of embroidered shoes with silver bells on them, and a kite on her back. It seemed like his little sister hadn't been slacking off when he gave her the 100 gold taels. She had taken the money and spent it freely for a period of time. Hearing Wang Chong's words, Wang Xiaoyao stuck out her tongue and hurriedly ran to her mother's side. Her eyes darted around the room, and soon she picked up a pair of chopsticks, stabbed a roasted goose on the table, and began munching on it. Gluttonous and playful. "You haven't changed at all." Wang Chong shook his head. Looking at his little sister, he felt helpless. Given his little sister's talent, if she had spent some time on cultivation, how could she have reached such a low cultivation realm? There probably wouldn't be many people in the capital who could match her. However, his little sister was only 10 years old, and she was a gluttonous and playful person. Wang Chong couldn't change that. His little sister didn't return alone. Together with her were a few experts sent over by cousin Wang Zhuyen. They were the true experts of his big uncle's residence. Wang Chong arranged for them to stay near his mother's residence and guarded her day and night. "Right, little brother?" After the meal, his little sister suddenly beamed with joy. Tilting her head, she fawned, "I heard from Shanhai and Meng Long that you earned 600,000 gold taels. Let me take a look. As she spoke, she shook Wang Chong's arm with a pleading look on her face. "I knew that you would do this." Wang Chong chuckled, but he didn't reject her. Instead, a doting look appeared on his face. "Let's go, I'll bring you to take a look." In the Wang family's storehouse, Wang Xiaoyao's eyes were filled with stars upon seeing the mountain of gold. "Wah, little brother, we're rich." The Wang family's little sister pounced over excitedly and started rolling on the pile of gold. As she rolled, she exclaimed excitedly, "So much gold, so much gold. How much delicious food can we buy with this?" Everything was fine at the start, but at the end, it was all about food. Just as the matter of the Wang clan being assaulted was causing a huge commotion, a shocking matter occurred in the royal court, the consort Taijin incident. The Son of Heaven, the Holy Emperor, was determined to bring consort Taijin into the royal palace. In the royal court, the King of Song, King Qi, the Yao clan, the Wang clan, the Duke of Su, the Duke of Wei, the Duke of Zhao. All of the civil and military officials were embroiled in the matter. This included Wang Chang's big uncle, Wang General. The entire royal court was torn into two. Half supported the matter while the other half opposed it. This became the most sensational matter in the past few decades of the Tang dynasty. Regardless of whether they supported the matter or opposed it, their emotions were extremely intense. As a result, the atmosphere in the royal court became extremely tense. In fact, there were even two physicians who fought in the royal court, resulting in them bleeding profusely. In the end, both of them were imprisoned in the imperial prison of the Court of Judicial Review. At the same time, the entire Central Plains was in a state of turmoil. Everyone's gaze was drawn to the royal court. Wang Chong received the news while he was cultivating at home. Upon hearing the news from the royal court, Wang Chong fell silent for a very long time. To think that such a matter would still happen. Wang Chong raised his head. The sky was overcast, and there was an indescribable pressure in it. Looking at the gloomy sky, a hint of worry flashed across Wang Chong's eyes. There were many things in this world that were different from what he remembered. But regardless of which time-space continuum he was in, the death of Consort Wu in 740, and the wise and formidable Holy Emperor in the history of the Tang dynasty ordered Consort Shou to become a nun, as well as the Consort Taijin incident that brought her into the royal palace, all of this had a significant impact on the world. No one could understand why the wise and valiant sage emperor, who had spent the first half of his life forging ahead, the greatest person in Great Tang, even the Central Plains, would have such a drastic change in his personality, going against the principles of morality and bringing Consort Taijin into the palace. Thinking about it carefully, even now, Wang Chong still couldn't understand why. This was definitely not the actions of a holy emperor, but the impact and consequences of this incident were extremely far-reaching. The Wang clan's backer, His Highness the King of Song, who wielded immense authority and influence in the royal court, had displeased the holy emperor due to his vehement opposition to this matter. As a result, he fell out of favor and was expelled from the royal court. Losing the backing of the King of Song was a heavy blow to the Wang clan. What was even worse was that the Wang clan had also chosen the wrong side in this political storm. Everyone had underestimated the Holy Emperor's determination in this matter. And the price of the Wang clan's underestimation was that they had suffered a huge blow in this matter. Since then, they had never recovered. Be it in terms of power, status, or influence, they had all been greatly weakened, and they had been completely eliminated from the first echelon of the Tang dynasty. In a political battle, one wrong step and one wrong side would have such a cruel price to pay. For the Wang clan, this was a huge crisis. However, in the entire Wang clan, apart from Wang Chong, no one knew the future direction of the Wang clan. Although he understood, Wang Chong knew that there was nothing he could do now. The impact of this storm in the royal court was unprecedented, and it was not something that a 15-year-old child like him could decide. I can only wait until Grandpa's birthday. At that time, the King of Song will definitely go to Grandpa and ask for his support. In the royal court of the Tang dynasty, Old Master Yao of the Yao clan and his own grandfather were two obstacles that could not be avoided. In any major event in the royal court, their opinions had a decisive effect. Wang Chong knew that the King of Song would definitely ask for his grandfather's opinion during the birthday celebration. Suppressing his thoughts, Wang Chong continued to practice. Chapter 86. Days passed one after another, and in the Wang family residence, a figure danced around swiftly. Dragon ascending the clouds. Dragon submerging the waves. Dragon swallowing the water. Dragon exhaling the waves. Wang Chong's figure was agile and lively. He executed a simple dragon bone art fist art, and as though a serpentine dragon, he darted through the fake mountains and forests. This had already surpassed the limits of an ordinary fist art. Instead, it had reached the level of being able to utilize one's own will. Even the guards of the Wang family couldn't help but stare at Wang Chong. No one knew where the third young master learned this fist art from, and no one cared about it either. To the Wang family, after witnessing the third young master's ability to amass more than 600,000 gold taels in such a short period of time, this was nothing at all. By now, no one was surprised by it. In the courtyard, Wang Chong's movement technique grew faster and faster. The air around him surged as though a tidal wave, and fallen leaves were swept up by Wang Chong. However, they didn't fall to the ground. Instead, as though small boats in the sea, they flowed along the air currents around Wang Chong. This was the sign of mastering the Herculean fist art. It's about time. A thought flashed across Wang Chong's mind, and the blood in his body flowed faster and faster. He had a feeling that he would be able to reach Origin Energy Tier 6 today. Peng ping peng. Surges of air currents exploded around Wang Chong. After an unknown period of time. Boom. Wang Chong's body jolted, and a surge of Origin energy burst forth from his body. As though a bottleneck had been broken, endless Origin energy gushed in from the surroundings and gushed into Wang Chong's body. Kacha kacha, the crisp sound of his joints echoed throughout his body. Under the boost of the Origin energy from the surroundings, Wang Chong's strength burst forth, and in the blink of an eye, he broke through from Origin Energy Tier 5 to Origin Energy Tier 6. Ha! The Heaven's Gate is open. I've finally reached Origin Energy Tier 6. Wang Chong was overjoyed. It was rare for Wang Chong to be so excited, but it was different this time. In martial arts, there was a saying called Heavenly Gate. This Heavenly Gate was not the 100 acupuncture points on the top of the head, but the bottleneck between the human body and the outside world. Upon reaching Origin Energy Tier 6, one would be able to break through this bottleneck and absorb Origin energy from the outside world. This was the greatest difference between Origin Energy Tier 5 and Origin Energy Tier 6. For example, the first 5 tiers of Origin Energy Tier 9 were all for the purpose of opening the Heaven's Gate. Once a martial artist reached Origin Energy Tier 6, they would be able to cultivate secret arts that could greatly enhance their strength, agility, and speed. For example, the Spectre Steps of the Eastern Islands female assassin was a speed-type secret art after reaching Origin Energy Tier 6. It was impossible for one to learn such a powerful secret art before reaching Origin Energy Tier 5. To Wang Chong, that wasn't all. Once he reached Origin Energy Tier 6, Wang Chong would be able to maneuver around even more freely. Even though he was the Grand Marshal of the Central Plains in his previous life, he had lost all of his cultivation. Thus, Wang Chong could only start over from scratch. The Origin Gate is open was a good start for Wang Chong. If Wang Chong's limbs were bound in the past, Wang Chong now had a free hand. Boom! With a thought, Wang Chong punched out with his right fist, and in that instant, something inconceivable happened. Kacha kacha, the bones in Wang Chong's body creaked, and his right arm suddenly grew to twice its original length. He reached his hand into the crevice of a fake mountain, and peng, the rock weighing more than 100 jin was lifted up. In Wang Chong's hand, a rock weighing more than 100 jin was as light as a feather. This was the ability of Origin Energy Tier 6. Upon reaching this level, a martial artist's fighting prowess would be greatly enhanced. For a rock weighing more than 100 jin to be as light as a feather, this was something that ordinary people couldn't compare to. This is what they say. Gongzi's intelligence is truly incredible. We have only exchanged a few blows, but Gongzi is already able to grasp the arm-link fist in one fell swoop. In the corridor by the side, Arloja and Eblonidon walked down the stairs with their sleeves fluttering in the wind. The two of them nodded their heads in delight. Arm-link fist was a secret art of Sindhu. Different from the martial arts of the Central Plains, Sindhu was known for its bizarre nature. Upon mastering this arm-link fist, one's arm would be able to move from one side to the other, allowing one to catch one's opponent off guard. This was also a Sindhu martial art that the two of them had imparted to Wang Chong according to Wang Chong's current cultivation realm. They thought that it would take a long time, but to think that Wang Chong's improvement would be faster than they had expected. I have to thank the two masters for your guidance. Wang Chong smiled and walked over. In another world, there was a saying that Bodhidharma traveled east to impart martial arts. As such, Wang Chong had always been curious about the Sindhu martial arts of this world. Due to the famine and poverty in Sindhu, the overall standard of martial arts couldn't compare to that of the Central Plains. However, that didn't mean that it didn't have its strengths. Of all the martial arts in Sindhu, the one that Wang Chong was most curious about was the tortoise breathing art. It was said that this was the secret art of the Sindhu monks. After mastering this secret art, one could bury themselves deep in the ground for 10 days and 10 nights without eating, drinking, or breathing, and nothing would happen to them. Some of the more formidable Sindhi sadhus could even remain motionless underground for 3 months or even several years, as if they were dead. In his previous life, this was the Sindhu martial art that Wang Chong wanted to learn the most, but he didn't have the chance to do so. Now that he had met Arloja and Ablanidin, how could Wang Chong let go of this opportunity? Arloja and Ablanidin spoke of everything they knew. The only problem was that Wang Chong wasn't able to learn it with his current cultivation. Long. Just as they were speaking, the rumbling of a carriage sounded from the front door. From the carriage, his little sister's excited voice could be heard clearly. "Brother, it's time to set off. It's grandfather's birthday. Mother wants us to go to the Four Quarters Embassy right now." "I got it. I'm coming." Hearing his little sister's loud voice reverberating through the entire Wang family residence, Wang Chong chuckled. A look of anticipation flashed in his eyes. Regardless of the storm outside, the entire Wang family residence was in a joyous mood today. Bright red lanterns were hung on the eaves of all of the houses. Many places were even painted with redwood paint, creating a festive atmosphere. Grandfather's 70th birthday was a huge occasion for the entire Wang clan. Other than Wang Chong's father, who was stationed by the borders, everyone else, including Big Uncle, Big Aunt, and Little Uncle, would be attending grandfather's birthday. Naturally, Wang Chong was the same as well. There were 365 days in a year, and this was the only day that Wang Chong could enter the Four Quarters Embassy to visit his grandfather. Even though he felt helpless, the Wang clan wasn't unique to a clan of generals and ministers. Where there was gain, there was bound to be loss. "Masters, I'll be leaving first," Wang Chong said in Sanskrit. Gongzi, we won't be accompanying you." Arloja and Ablanidin replied respectfully. The Four Quarters Embassy was a forbidden ground of the Tang dynasty, and it was heavily guarded by the experts of the imperial army. Even descendants of the Wang clan like Wang Chong weren't allowed to enter easily, needless to say, Sindhi Buddhist monks like Arloja and Ablanidin. Wang Chong nodded. With his little sister around, the Wang clan's guards, and even the experts of the imperial army, he didn't have to worry about any accidents happening in broad daylight. Wang Chong began walking out. Outside the gates of the Wang family residence, a bright red carriage stopped. His mother and little sister were on it. Wang Chong dived into the carriage and it slowly drove off. "You two siblings, listen up. Chong, you have to listen up as well. Today is grandfather's birthday, and other than us, many of your grandfather's old subordinates are coming over. When we reach there, speak less, eat more, and observe more. Don't cause any trouble for me." Whenever it was her father-in-law's birthday, Zhao Shuhua would be extremely nervous. In the family, even though she had the final say. But everyone knew that the backbone of the Wang clan, the true person at the helm, was actually Eunuch Wang. Her father-in-law had led a glorious life, and he was doted on by the Holy Emperor. The reason why the Wang clan was able to become a clan of generals and ministers was due to her father-in-law's contributions. In the Wang clan, her father-in-law wielded unparalleled authority. Zhao Shuhua had always been respectful and fearful of Gongzi. In truth, she wasn't the only one. The other sisters-in-law were the same as well. "Mother, don't worry. I know what to do." Wang Chong patted his mother's back and consoled her. "That's right, what is there for grandfather to be afraid of? I'm not afraid at all." Wang family's little Yao pouted. Hearing his little sister's words, Wang Chong and his mother smiled bitterly. In the Wang clan, grandfather had always been extremely strict. Regardless of whether it was his big brother, second brother, or cousin, they had all been reprimanded by grandfather. Even Wang Chong himself was the same in his previous life. The only exception was probably his little sister. For some reason, regardless of whether it was grandfather or grandmother, they were extremely fond of this little sister of theirs. At this age, grandfather had never scolded her before. Every time they saw his little sister, the two elders would chuckle happily. This made Wang Chong, his big brothers and cousin incomparably jealous. But there was nothing they could do. His little sister was a magnet for affection. Furthermore, other than gluttony, girls were playful. They wouldn't cause any trouble. The carriage passed through the streets and alleys, heading toward the east. Several hours later, seated in the carriage, Wang Chong suddenly felt a majestic aura crushing down on him, as though a tidal wave. In that instant, Wang Chong felt as though he was facing a torrent of the world. "We've arrived at the Four Quarters Embassy." Wang Chong immediately realized what was going on. He had been to the Four Quarters Embassy before, so this aura was extremely familiar to Wang Chong. Shwa. Parting the curtains, Wang Chong gazed into the distance. Not too far away, a massive residence stood before him. The residence was square-shaped, and it was 7 to 8 times the size of an ordinary general or minister clan. It looked extremely simple, but it exuded an incomparably solemn and dignified aura. Anyone who walked by this place couldn't help but feel a sense of respect and reverence. They would lower their voices and slow their footsteps, as though fearing that they would alarm the person within. There wasn't a single person in the vicinity of the residence, not even a single house. Above the main gate of the residence, Wang Chong saw a simple signboard. On the signboard were 3 large words painted in black on a white background: frowny face, Four Quarters Embassy. The words were bold and forceful, as if they were bursting out of the paper, like a true dragon soaring into the sky, affecting the world. This was the Four Quarters Embassy. Chapter 87. The Four Quarters Embassy was quiet, but Wang Chong knew that it was one of the most heavily guarded places in the Central Plains. Countless Imperial Army experts were stationed here. Looking from afar, even the air above the Four Quarters Embassy seemed slightly distorted, and even the sun, moon, and stars seemed a little bizarre. The Four Quarters Embassy looked simple, and one could easily climb over the walls. However, one would realize that this place was definitely a tiger's den. One might be able to enter easily, but there was no guarantee that one would be able to come out alive. Every time Wang Chong entered this place, he would feel as though he had stepped into an impenetrable fortress. To think that I would finally be back here. Looking at the Four Quarters Embassy, Wang Chong was in a daze. A complicated expression flashed across his eyes. Wang Chong had always disliked the Four Quarters Embassy. The reason was simple. The atmosphere here was too solemn. Every time he entered this place, it didn't feel like a family gathering. Instead, it felt more like a court assembly. Furthermore, grandfather, or perhaps the old master, this was how Wang Chong addressed him in his heart, was too upright and incorruptible. Wang Chong's rebelliousness, ignorance, and troublemaking didn't appeal to the old master. As a result, Wang Chong felt as though he was invisible every time he came here. No one paid attention to him, and no one cared about him. Due to this reason, Wang Chong disliked coming here even more. There were many things that one would only realize their importance after losing them. It was only after the old master passed away that Wang Chong truly felt the weight of the old master. The entire Wang clan lost its pillar of support, and in an instant, the world collapsed. Only then did Wang Chong realize what the old master meant to the clan. Humans had to learn from their mistakes in order to grow. Many years later, when Wang Chong was no longer young, Wang Chong finally understood his grandfather's intentions. He had lived an upright and incorruptible life. Wealth, status, and authority held no attraction to him at all. No one disliked having a house full of grandchildren, and no one disliked enjoying a blissful old age. The reason why he persisted for so long in the Four Quarters Embassy despite his old age was for this family, for the descendants of the Wang clan. Thus, in his previous life, when he revisited the Four Quarters Embassy many years later, The Four Quarters Embassy was no longer guarded by the Imperial Army, and it was overgrown with weeds, turning it into an ordinary courtyard. Big Uncle and Little Uncle kneeled on the ground and burst into tears. That scene was something that Wang Chong would never forget for the rest of his life. In the past, Wang Chong was filled with awe and respect for this place, but as someone who had reincarnated, Wang Chong's feelings toward this place were completely different. It wasn't just the intimacy that flowed through his bloodline. To Wang Chong, this place also contained a sliver of hope for the empire. If Wang Chong wanted to change the fate of the empire, change the fate of the Central Plains, he needed the approval and help of that elder in the Four Quarters courtyard. This was Wang Chong's only chance. Jaya! A shout sounded from outside the carriage. Wang Chong's eyes widened for a moment, but he soon recovered. Retracting his head, he sat on the carriage with his mother and slowly headed toward the Four Quarters Embassy. This wasn't the first time the Wang clan's carriage had entered the Four Quarters Embassy. Even in the Tang dynasty, there were few who didn't recognize the emblem on the carriage. However, they still had to go through strict procedures to verify it before allowing it in. Let's alight here. If Duke Jiao summons you, he'll inform you. Not too far after entering the Four Quarters Embassy, several Imperial Army soldiers stood guard. Several black-armored Imperial Army soldiers had grim and expressionless faces, blocking the way. This was the periphery of the Four Quarters Embassy. Even though they were from the Wang clan, they could only walk this far. They had to wait for the summons from inside. Even though Wang Chong wasn't used to this, he knew that this was a rule set by the Holy Emperor. But Wang Chong knew that this was a rule set down by the Sage Emperor to prevent people from trying to take advantage of the chaos and sneak in. The Holy Emperor viewed the Four Quarters Embassy with great importance. All of you wait here. Big Ant and the others will be here soon, and we'll all enter together. Remember not to run around. Madame Wang instructed from the carriage. She was already used to all of this, so she wasn't surprised by it. Wang Chong and his little sister nodded their heads before opening the carriage door and alighting. The Four Quarters Embassy was heavily guarded. With a single glance, one could see a sentry every 5 steps and a sentry every 10. There were Imperial Army guards everywhere, both in the open and in the shadows. These gazes scanned the area silently from all directions, and it felt as though one was being watched at all times. In his previous life, Wang Chong had always felt uncomfortable being watched. However, having lived 2 lives, Wang Chong had weathered many storms, so he didn't mind such surveillance. Mother, let me help you down. Wang Chong stood by the side of the carriage and helped his mother down. Madame Wang nodded her head in gratification. This child had truly grown up. If it was in the past, he wouldn't have been so sensible. Disregarding the Imperial Army guards, the interior of the Four Quarters Embassy was actually quite beautiful. The interior of the Four Quarters Embassy was filled with lush greenery, and between the trees, neatly paved bluestone paths could be seen. By the sides of the paths, there were many craggy artificial mountains and boulders that exuded an ancient charm. Clear streams of flowing water, carefully constructed by the Bureau of Works, flowed through the surroundings. Wang Chong glanced around, and he could even see clusters of meticulously cultivated black bamboos. They were lush and vigorous, exuding vitality. The old master loved peace and quiet, and he was skilled in both literature and martial arts when he was young. These were all things that he liked. Lualulu. Just as he was waiting, the rumbling of a carriage sounded from behind him. Yo, isn't this Shu Hua? You sure came early. It's father-in-law's birthday, Shu Hua. You sure put in a lot of effort. Before Wang Chong could see the person, a sarcastic and eccentric voice sounded from the green carriage. Wang Chong turned his head and saw a middle-aged woman with a hairpin and an air of nobility poking her head out of the carriage window. Her eyes were staring at him with a hint of harshness in them. Big Ant. A thought flashed across Wang Chong's mind. The person who peeked her head out from the carriage was none other than Wang Chong's big aunt, Xing Yuanchun. If Big Uncle had always been fond of him in his previous life, Big Ant hated him. This kind of hatred wasn't limited to just Wang Chong, but the entire Wang clan. Big brother, second brother, father, mother, and little sister were all included. In fact, even after the Wang clan fell into trouble, Big Ant's attitude hadn't changed at all. When the Wang clan was in trouble, everyone was more than willing to work together. Even though they were starving, Big Ant was always nagging at them. When it was time to eat, she made sure to eat the best. And when it was time to pick out food, she made sure to pick the largest portion. When the Wang clan fell into trouble, everyone was skinny, but Big Ant even gained a few caddies. Due to this reason, she and Wang Chong hated one another. Sister-in-law must be joking. Today is father-in-law's birthday, so how could Shu Hua dare to be late? Hearing her brother and sister-in-law's words, Madame Wang's face darkened, but she didn't dare to refute them. Xing Yuan-chun was the daughter-in-law of the Wang clan's first wife. In the feudal society, her status was much higher than hers. Mother, why are you being so courteous with her? Big Ant, today is grandfather's 70th birthday. As an elder, you actually came so late for such an important event. Aren't you being a little too negligent? Wang Chong tugged at his mother and retorted rudely. His mother couldn't speak, but as a child, he didn't have much to fear. Even if grandfather were to blame him, he would only say that he was inexperienced and that it wasn't a big deal. That's right, that's right. Why are you scolding my mother? His little sister clenched her fists and argued indignantly. Xing Yuan-chun didn't expect Wang Chong to interject and criticize her for being late. She angrily pointed a finger at Wang Chong and said with a frosty face, "You two, little things, do you still have any respect for your elders? How dare you speak like that? I'm speaking with your mother, do you have the right to interrupt? Zhao Shuhua, is this how you teach your children? Enough!" At this moment, a cold and authoritative voice sounded from the carriage. The quarreling trio immediately quietened down. Today is father's birthday, so no one is allowed to argue here. Xing Yuan-chun, shut your mouth. Wang Chong, you're not allowed to speak as well. It was Wang Chong's big uncle, Wang General. As an influential official of the royal court, his words carried an air of authority. Yes, big uncle. Wang Chong bowed and fell silent. Compared to before, big uncle's tone was much more relaxed, and he didn't seem to be blaming Wang Chong. Clearly, Wang Chong's suggestion to help big uncle and cousin wasn't in vain. But for some reason, Wang Chong felt that there was something weighing heavily on his big uncle's mind when he spoke. Big brother is right. Shu Hua has been rude. Wang Chong's mother, Zhao Shu Hua, also bowed. Even though Wang Chong's big uncle Wang Zhen was strict and inflexible, and he didn't have a good relationship with the Wang clan in the past, he wasn't as harsh and arrogant as Xing Yuan-chun. Thus, there wasn't much conflict between him and Wang Chong's mother. Wang Zhen, your elbows are out. Do you even know how to talk? She's talking back to me. A sharp and discordant voice sounded from the carriage. Even though big uncle Wang Zhen was speaking up, Wang Chong's big aunt, Xing Yuan-chun, didn't buy it, and her voice was filled with dissatisfaction. Mother, stop. At this moment, another voice from the carriage grumbled. It's cousin. Wang Chong could tell that it was his grandfather's 70th birthday. It was impossible for cousin Wang Zhuyen to miss out on such a huge occasion. Fine. To think that even you would speak up for an outsider. Stinky lass, I'll teach you a lesson. Big Ant's face was filled with anger, and as she spoke, she stretched out her finger to pinch her cheek. Following which, a scream of shock sounded from her cousin, as though she was really pinched in pain. Then a series of nagging reprimands followed. Yo, isn't that Shu Hua? There's also Yuan Chun. Chapter 88. Big Ant. Wang Chong turned his head around, a delighted look on his face. The ones who came were none other than Wang Chong's big aunt Wang Rushuang and Uncle Li Lin. Hee, Chonga and little Yao are here too. Wang Chong's big aunt looked at Wang Chong and his little sister passionately, as though she was her own son. Hee, Yuan Chun, they're just children, there's no need to get angry with them. Just let them have their way. Today is father's birthday, and this is a huge matter. Let's discuss how we can ensure that nothing goes wrong so that father will be happy. Big Ant quickly stepped forward to mediate the situation. As she spoke, she secretly winked at Wang Chong. Wang Chong chuckled inwardly. Understanding her intentions, he quickly pulled his little sister to the side. In his previous life, Big Ant and Big Ant had always been close. However, everything had changed. Wang Chong had helped Uncle Li Lin to be transferred out of the North Gate, and he had even been promoted along with Zhao Fengchen. In the eyes of Big Ant Wang Rushuang, wasn't Wang Chong even closer to her than her own son? In Big Uncle's carriage, the voices suddenly stopped. Hee Rushuang is here. Big Ant Xing Yuan Chun popped her head out of the window and looked in the direction of Big Ant's carriage. Her eyes were filled with warmth, completely different from how she treated Wang Chong's mother. The old master had 3 sons and 1 daughter, and Big Ant Wang Rushuang was the old master's only daughter. The old master's bloodline flowed through her body. Furthermore, Big Ant Wang Rushuang was a married daughter, so she wouldn't vie for the old master's fortune. As such, she didn't have much of a conflict with Xing Yuan Chun. In this aspect, she was completely different from Wang Chong's mother. It's been a while since we last met, and Yuan Chun's complexion seems to be getting better. You don't look like someone of our age. Look at me, even my white hair is growing out. Is that so? Big Ant, don't say that. You don't look old at all. First Ant's face was rosy and full of smiles. Just as he was speaking, a cold snort suddenly came from the carriage. With a bang, the door of the green carriage was pushed open from the inside. A tall and slender figure appeared at the entrance of the carriage, emitting a majestic aura. This sudden turn of events caused everyone to be stunned. Cousin. Wang Chong and his little sister stood at the side of the road in a daze. It took them a while to react. The person who appeared at the entrance of the carriage with an impatient face was none other than Wang Chong's cousin, Wang Li. This child. How can you do things in front of your aunt? Aren't you going to call me aunt? Eldest Aunt Xing Yuan Chun called out. However, Wang Chong's cousin, Wang Li, acted as though he didn't hear anything. He didn't even glance at Big Ant Wang Rushuang and left the carriage. Wang Li was the eldest son of the Wang clan, and he was an official as well. The old master had once bestowed a special favor upon him, so the imperial army guards didn't even bother to look at him before allowing him to leave. In the blink of an eye, Wang Li disappeared into the bamboo forest. Throughout the entire process, no one spared him a second glance. It should be something from before, a thought flashed across Wang Chong's mind. No one knew better than him just how ambitious cousin Wang Li was in his desire for fame and glory. In the 3rd generation, cousin Wang Li had always been competing with his 2 elder brothers, especially his eldest brother. Just that, despite being the eldest son of the Wang clan, cousin Wang Li had never been a match for his eldest brother, Wang Fu. Even his official rank couldn't compare to his eldest brother. Due to the Yao clan, his promotion was ruined. It was easy to imagine cousin Wang Li's emotions. This child, Big Ant Xing Yuan Chun, stared at cousin Wang Li's disappearing silhouette in embarrassment. Enough. Let's stop talking and get off the carriage. It was Big Uncle Wang Zhen's voice. As soon as he said those words, he stood up and walked out of the carriage. Before coming out, he glanced at Wang Chong and nodded his head. Then, with a troubled look on his face, he walked forward. As the eldest son of the Wang clan and an influential official in the royal court, Big Uncle would often visit the Four Quarters Embassy to consult the old master on political issues. As such, he was an exception to the rules of the Four Quarters Embassy. In just a moment, Big Uncle passed through the security barrier and disappeared into the bamboo forest. Ru Shuang, let's go in as well? There's no need for that. I'll wait for 4th brother here. It's rare for him to return from Tianzhu Mountain for the old master's birthday banquet. Let's wait for him. Wang Ru Shuang shook her head. She glanced at Wang Chong with a deep gaze. Xing Yuan Chun didn't insist on it. She got off the carriage, and when she passed by Wang Chong's mother, she harumphed coldly before walking into the bamboo forest. Wang Zhu Yen was the last one to come out. Only after Big Ant disappeared did she sneak out. Without Big Ant Xing Yuan Chun's presence, the atmosphere was much more harmonious. Wang Zhu Yen walked up to Wang Chong's mother and said apologetically, "My mother's words were a little harsh, but she isn't a bad person. I'll apologize on her behalf, so please don't take it to heart." Silly child, why are you apologizing? How could I? Wang Chang's mother shook her head with a smile. Indeed, Shu Hua, Yuan Chun's personality is just like that. Just let it go in one ear and out the other. Big Aunt Wang Ru Shuang walked over with a smile. The aunt and niece chatted for a moment before their gazes turned to look at Wang Chong simultaneously. Getting, Wang Chang's heart skipped a beat. Big Aunt was still fine, but cousin Wang Zhuyan's gaze was filled with malicious intent. It was as though she was looking at a huge piece of meat. TSK, isn't this our family's little Tao Zhu? Why, have you forgotten about second sister after earning some money? How can that be? An embarrassed expression appeared on Wang Chang's face. In the eyes of Wang Chang's big aunt, uncle, and mother, they couldn't help but chuckle. Even though Wang Chong was currently in the limelight, resolving the crisis of the Wang clan and earning a huge sum of money, he couldn't bring himself to do so in front of his cousin Wang Zhuyan. It was as though he had been restrained. Where's my share? You've earned so much money, surely you haven't forgotten about me, right? Wang Zhuyan stretched out her hand and harumphed, gesturing as though she was counting money. How can that be? I've been keeping the money for second sister's rouge. When second sister needs it, I'll send it over. Wang Chong said. That's more like it. As Wang Zhuyan spoke, she couldn't help but burst into laughter. Wang Zhuyan laughed, and the others followed suit. Only Wang Chong was bewildered. Right? Don't leave after the birthday banquet. I have something to ask of you. Wang Zhuyan suddenly said. Wang Chong was surprised. It was rare for his cousin to look for him, especially on an important occasion like grandfather's 70th birthday banquet. I understand. Even though Wang Chong was perplexed, he quickly nodded his head. When she spoke, although she was smiling, her expression was very serious. Usually, when such an expression appeared on her face, it meant that the matter was extremely important. Wang Chong didn't dare to be careless. Remember, don't forget it. Only then did Wang Zhuyan nod her head in satisfaction. After bidding farewell to Wang Chong's mother and big aunt Wang Rushuang, she dived into the bamboo forest. After cousin Wang Zhuyan left, Wang Chong's big aunt Wang Rushuang followed suit. However, different from her cousin, her gaze was extremely gentle, and it could even be said to be filled with gratitude. Child, thank you. Big Aunt Wang Rushuang was moved. Without her big brother and sister-in-law around, there was no need for her to hide it. For her husband, Li Lin's matter, she had pleaded with the old master countless times. However, the old master's personality was too stubborn. Once he had decided on something, it was impossible for him to change his mind. Wang Rushuang was on the verge of despair. In fact, she even felt that her husband would die of old age in the North Gate. However, things happened too abruptly. Wang Rushuang didn't expect that the one who resolved this problem for her would be her rebellious and profligate nephew. In just a short period of time, her husband, Li Lin, was transferred out of the North Gate and even promoted by a rank. Even now, Wang Rushuang still found it inconceivable. Aunt, there's no need to say that. We are a family. Furthermore, Uncle has helped me as well. As Wang Chong spoke, he glanced at Uncle behind him. Wang Chong was speaking the truth, but in the ears of big Aunt Wang Rushuang, it turned into humility. She felt even more grateful to him. This child, Chonga, if you have time in the future, pay Aunt Duo a visit. You should get closer to your cousin Wang Liang. Wang Liang, your cousin is here as well, why aren't you getting down? At the end of his words, he turned around and bellowed at the carriage behind him. Wait a moment. Wait for me to finish making this wooden bird. This kind of thing is very popular in the capital right now. It costs 5 taels of silver each, and if it can fly, it'll be 10. I'll make a few more, and I'll surely be able to earn quite a bit of money. The voice in the carriage seemed to be extremely busy and focused. Wang Liang. Wang Rushuang flew into a rage, and her face steeled. Listening by the side, Wang Chong couldn't help but burst into laughter. The only one who could say such words was his cousin, Wang Liang. Cousin Wang Liang wasn't skilled in literature or martial arts, but he was extremely interested in making money through business. He was extremely sensitive to the movements in the market. He was always able to find a business opportunity and earn a sum from it. The only problem was, just like what he said, he could only earn 5 taels of silver each time. It had always been a small business. The sound of wood creaking could still be heard from the carriage, and cousin Wang Liang was still busy inside. This child, Big Aunt Wang Ru Shuang, felt helpless as well. Forget it, Shuhua. It's about time. I'm afraid that fourth brother will only arrive very late. Let's go in first. Not too far away, a few Imperial Army experts opened up a path for them. The old master had finally sent word that they could enter. The carriage started moving and the group walked in. The old master's residence was called Erudite Pavilion. It was heavily guarded, and it was hard to tell how many experts were guarding it. The moment Wang Chong and his mother walked in, Big Uncle and Big Aunt were already waiting in the main hall. Along with cousin Wang Zhuyen and cousin Wang Li, they stood in a straight line, and the atmosphere was solemn. Chapter 89. At the very front of the hall were 2 purple armchairs. With a single glance, Wang Chong saw 2 dignified silver-haired elders seated on the armchairs. "Grandfather!" A crisp voice sounded. Before Wang Chong could react, his little sister had already dashed over and pounced into the embrace of the 2 elders. "Hee, look who's here. Isn't this our little Yao? Little lass, you finally remembered to visit grandfather?" In the hall, the dignified silver-haired old man opened his arms and embraced the Wang family's little sister. He placed her on his knees with an amiable expression on his face. On the other hand, Wang family's little Yao didn't stand on ceremony either. She hugged the 2 silver-haired elders tightly as she called out for her grandfather and grandmother. Upon seeing this sight, everyone in the hall had complicated expressions on their faces. Even Wang Chong's cousin, Wang Li, couldn't help but reveal a look of envy. The old master had a strict personality. Before him, no one dared to breathe loudly. Even Wang Chong's big uncle, Wang Zhen, was the same. In the entire Wang clan, only Wang clan's little Yao was an exception. Every time they met, she would kick up a fuss. Yet, the old master and old madam didn't mind it at all. On the contrary, they liked her a lot. This was his little sister's unique ability, and no one could learn it. "Father, I'm here to offer my blessings to you. May your fortune be as boundless as the sea and you live as long as the mountains." Wang Chong's big aunt and uncle carried 2 large longevity peaches and respectfully offered their blessings. The old master had an incorruptible personality, and he didn't like those extravagant and luxurious things. In the past, there were people who had gifted him those expensive gifts, but not only were the gifts returned, they were even reprimanded. Thus, even though it was his 70th birthday, no one dared to violate the old master's taboo and hold a lavish celebration. The gifts were all simple and unadorned items. Besides, the old master didn't like them either. "On you're too kind." The old master nodded slightly as he received the peach. His expression didn't change much. Everyone in the Wang clan knew that this was the old master's temper. His temperament was harsh and serious. Even on such a joyous occasion as his 70th birthday, he did not reveal too much of his emotions. After uncle and aunt finished offering their blessings, they brought cousin Wang Liang to the side in a well-behaved manner. Since the old man didn't say anything, the others didn't dare to say anything. "Grandpa, grandson Wang Chong, I wish you happiness as vast as the East Sea, and longevity as long as the southern mountain pine." When it was time to celebrate his mother's birthday, Wang Chong suddenly stepped forward and said, "Oh." As soon as Wang Chong finished speaking, everyone in the room immediately looked over, including the old master and old madam who were sitting on the armchairs. For the first time, they noticed Wang Chong, and a strange look appeared in their eyes. This time, when the people of the Wang clan came to offer their blessings, everyone said, "Blessings as vast as the East Sea, longevity as long as the South Mountain." Wang Chong was the same, but he added a few words at the end, and the entire mood instantly changed. The 2 of them had heard plenty of birthday blessings, but this was the first time they had heard such a speech. "Hee, old master, listen carefully. This child is very similar to your demeanor back then." Old madam suddenly said with a smile. "Not bad." The old master nodded with a smile, not saying much. But by the side, Wang Chang's big uncle, big aunt, and uncle were visibly moved. Everyone in the Wang clan knew that in order to prevent the Wang clan from getting too arrogant, the old master rarely praised others. Even for Wang Chang's big uncle, the old master would only nod his head slightly most of the time. A simple, "not bad," might sound like nothing much, but those who were familiar with the old master knew that this was already a rare sight. "Also, grandson has a gift for you," Wang Chong said. The moment Wang Chong said those words, the atmosphere in the room suddenly changed. By the side, Wang Chong's big aunt, Wang Rushuang, signaled to Wang Chong with her eyes, and Wang Chong's big uncle also fell silent. On the other hand, even though Wang Chong's big aunt had a displeased expression on her face a moment ago, she was sneering coldly by the side. Everyone in the Wang clan knew that the old master was upright and incorruptible, and he never liked to accept gifts. Not only did he not accept gifts from outsiders, even if they were from the Wang clan, he would never accept any gifts other than on a joyous occasion. On top of that, he only accepted gifts from Wang Chong's uncles and uncles. As for the younger generation, he didn't accept any gifts at all. He didn't want the younger generation to be tainted by the customs of the officialdom from a young age, forcing them to learn how to reciprocate gifts. Who would have thought that just after the old master praised Wang Chong would immediately break the taboo? Children really can't stand compliments. Wang Chong's big aunt said sinisterly by the side. Seated on the chair, the old master stared at Wang Chong expressionlessly. Even the smile on the old lady's face retracted. "What gift did you give him?" Unexpectedly, the old master suddenly asked. His gaze was fixated on the rectangular object in Wang Chong's hands. No one could tell what he was thinking about. "A saber and a sword." Kneeling on the floor, Wang Chong said honestly. The moment Wang Chong said those words, the entire hall burst into an uproar. "Chong, what are you doing?" Wang Chong's mother's face darkened. She had noticed that when Wang Chong boarded the carriage, he was holding a long object tightly wrapped in a long cloth. Just that, Zhao Shuhua didn't expect it to be a saber and a sword. Sabers and swords brought about a calamity of blood. For Wang Chong to take out such a weapon in front of the old master, it was a grave offense. "Wang Chong, back down." Wang Chong's big uncle, Wang Zhen, bellowed. Previously, Wang Chong had helped him resolve the matter regarding his eldest son, Wang Li, to prevent the Yao clan from making use of him. As a result, Wang Zhen's view of Wang Chong changed drastically. That was also the reason why he stepped forward to stop Wang Chong's big aunt from ridiculing him in the carriage. But to gift a sword and a saber on such a joyous occasion like his 70th birthday, this was too ridiculous. Even though Wang Chong was still young, it was unacceptable for him to do such a thing. "Chong, how can you be so insensible? Aren't you cursing your grandfather? Hurry up and keep the item and apologize to grandfather," Wang Chong's big aunt said anxiously. This child was too young and rash. Not too long ago, his outstanding performance had caught the attention of the old master. In fact, due to his birthday speech, the old master even made an exception and praised him. How could he make such a mistake so quickly? Wasn't this destroying his own future? Wang Rushuang had a good impression of Wang Chong. Wang Rushuang didn't think that Wang Chong was doing it on purpose when he gifted a sword and a saber on his birthday. Most likely, it was due to the fact that the young were ignorant and didn't understand such taboos. Unlike the old master, the old lady had an amiable personality. But at this moment, she retracted her smile and pursed her lips tightly. Wang Chong's cousin, Wang Li, didn't say anything. Instead, he glanced at Wang Chong and frowned. On the other hand, Wang Zhuyen was shocked by Wang Chong's actions. She followed behind Wang Chong's big aunt and shot him a meaningful glance. "Why did you give me a sword and saber?" the old master asked gravely. The atmosphere in the room grew even more stifling. Wang Chong held onto the sword and kneeled on the floor, but there wasn't any change in his expression. What grandson gifted is a heavy sword. Grandson thinks that this sword is the most suitable weapon for grandfather, and it can best express the feelings in grandson's heart. Before the others in the room could react, the old master was able to tell what Wang Chong was talking about. and Wang Chang's big uncle couldn't help but glance at him in astonishment. This nephew of his was truly surprising him. A heavy sword without an edge is just a simple work of art. Wang Chang's words were undoubtedly implying that the sword he gifted wasn't sharpened. A truly powerful sword didn't need to be sharpened to possess immense might. As for those truly exquisite weapons, they didn't need to be polished meticulously either. Just like the saying, the chest is as empty as a valley, while the abdomen is filled with knowledge and wisdom. Could it be that Wang Chong was trying to say that even though the old master had already retired and lived in such a simple and unadorned residence, he was still an influential official who wielded great authority in the empire and was respected by the masses? His status had already reached a level where he didn't need to be rewarded with a high official salary, the purple ribbon fish token, or the congratulations of the officials. Just like the heavy sword in Wang Chang's hand. If this nephew of his really had such thoughts, and that was why he gifted the old master a heavy sword as a gift, then this was truly incredible. This was something that even Wang Zhen hadn't thought of before. Without a doubt, regardless of whether it was a birthday peach or anything else, there was nothing more fitting for the old master's heart than this. As expected, the old master seemed to have thought of this as well, and a smile appeared on his face. "Bring it over," the old master said as he stretched out his hand. Wang Chong kneeled over and respectfully placed the sword into the old master's hand. This was something that Wang Chong was willing to do. Wang Chong's respect for the old master came from the bottom of his heart. There were many things that one could only understand after many years. Regarding the old master, Wang Chong only came to understand many things after the old master passed away. In the Tang dynasty, there were two true legends. One was Yao Feng's grandfather, the pillar of the Yao clan, Old Master Yao. And the other was his grandfather. Everyone respectfully addressed him as Duke Jiao. He had lived a life of vicissitudes and weathered many storms. He had once defended the borders of northern Tibet and fought against two Turkic khaganates. He had also once criticized the current situation in the royal court with impassioned speeches, stripping away the old prejudices and ushering in a new atmosphere in the royal court. Back then, there was a coup in the royal court, and when the empire was on the brink of collapse, he stood his ground and supported the current holy emperor, resulting in the unprecedented prosperity of the empire. His students and acquaintances were all over the world. When he was at his peak, he retreated bravely. He had lived an honest and upright life, and he was respected by the empire. In fact, even after he retired, the current emperor couldn't resist building this four-quarters embassy in order to retain him. Every historical figure had a prototype. Wang Chong was once perplexed as to why the old master wielded such great influence in the royal court, but he couldn't find such a person in history. It was only many years later that a name flashed across Wang Chong's mind. Only then did Wang Chong realize who his grandfather was. Zhang Jiuling. He was a famous minister in the history of the Tang dynasty, as well as the last of his generation. But in this world, he was known as Wang Jiuling, and everyone respectfully addressed him as. Welcome to Legends of Cultivation audiobooks, where we bring ancient fantasy to life through storytelling. Follow the rise of heroes who defy fate, unlock mystical powers, and battle across celestial realms. Our audiobooks are crafted for fans of Chinese cultivation novels, filled with battles, breakthroughs, and legendary artifacts. Subscribe and be part of an unforgettable journey into the realm of immortality.